Rain hammered Ethan's windshield hard enough to blur the road ahead into shifting streaks of light. The clock on his dashboard read 2:13 a.m. He should have taken the main highway home, but construction forced him onto the older forest road that cut through miles of empty land outside the city. No gas stations, no houses, nothing except dark trees bending violently in the storm. The radio crackled with static before dying completely. Ethan sighed and tightened his grip on the steering wheel. Then something appeared in his headlights. A figure. Standing motionless in the middle of the road. Jesus! He slammed the brakes. The tires screeched across wet asphalt as the car stopped only a few feet away from her. A woman stood barefoot beneath the pouring rain, wearing a thin gray sweater soaked completely through. Mud covered her legs, and one side of her face was bruised badly, but it wasn't the injuries that unsettled Ethan. It was the way she stared directly at him, like she already knew him. Heart pounding, Ethan stepped out into the storm. "Are you okay?" The woman looked behind her nervously toward the dark forest. Then she ran toward him suddenly. Before Ethan could react, she grabbed his arm with freezing hands. "You need to leave," she whispered. Her voice trembled with fear. "What happened to you?" "They're coming." "Who's coming?" The woman looked up at him, panic filling her eyes, and then she said something that made Ethan's blood run cold. "Ethan, please." He froze. He had never seen this woman before in his life. "How do you know my name?" But before she could answer, bright headlights appeared far down the highway. Two black SUVs speeding toward them through the rain. The woman's expression changed instantly to terror. "They found me." Without another word, she turned and sprinted toward the forest beside the road. "Wait!" Ethan chased after her into the trees, branches snapping beneath his feet, as thunder shook the sky above. He followed muddy footprints through the darkness, until they suddenly stopped near a large oak tree. The woman was gone. Only silence remained. Breathing heavily, Ethan searched the area with his phone flashlight. That's when he noticed something hanging from a low branch. A silver necklace. He pulled it down carefully. Engraved into the metal were two initials. LM. Then, somewhere deeper in the forest, he heard a scream. The scream echoed through the forest only once. Then silence swallowed everything again. "Hello?" Ethan shouted, turning toward the darkness. "Where are you?" No response. Rain dripped from the branches overhead, while his flashlight shook in his hand. Every instinct told him to run back to the car, but the fear in the woman's eyes wouldn't leave his mind. He pushed deeper into the trees. A few yards ahead, he found fresh footprints in the mud, barefoot, small, uneven. Ethan followed them until they suddenly disappeared beside the remains of an old wooden fence. Beyond it stood an abandoned building hidden behind overgrown vines. A cabin. One upstairs window moved slightly. Someone was inside. "Hey," Ethan called cautiously. "I'm trying to help you." For several seconds nothing happened. Then the front door creaked open by itself. Ethan stepped closer slowly. The cabin smelled of mold and damp wood. Furniture lay overturned across the floor, as though someone had searched the place violently. And on the wall near the fireplace, dozens of photographs were pinned together. Every single one showed the same woman from the highway. Some pictures looked recent, others were years old. At the center of the wall was a newspaper clipping with a headline that made Ethan's stomach tighten. "Local woman missing for 3 years." Beneath the headline was her photograph. Lena Moore, age 29. Ethan stared at the article in disbelief. 3 years? That was impossible. He had spoken to her less than 30 minutes earlier. Suddenly the floor creaked upstairs. Ethan looked up sharply. Slow footsteps crossed above him. "Lena?" he called. The footsteps stopped immediately. Then, bang! A loud crash exploded from outside the cabin. Ethan rushed to the window. The two black SUVs had arrived. Men in dark jackets stepped out carrying flashlights, sweeping the forest methodically. One of them pointed directly toward the cabin. "They're here!" Ethan shouted instinctively. Upstairs, a door slammed shut. Ethan ran toward the staircase, but halfway up, he noticed something lying on the steps. A photograph. His breath caught. It was a picture of him, leaving his office earlier that evening. On the back, written in black ink, were 6 chilling words. You were never supposed to see her. Then the cabin lights suddenly went out, and heavy footsteps began climbing the porch outside. Darkness swallowed the cabin completely. Ethan's breathing turned ragged as heavy footsteps creaked across the porch outside. Flashlight beams sliced through cracks in the boarded windows, moving slowly from room to room. They were searching for someone. Or hunting. Instinct took over. Ethan shoved the photograph into his jacket and rushed upstairs toward the slammed door. The narrow staircase groaned beneath his weight while voices echoed outside. Check every room. We saw movement. The upstairs hallway was barely visible in the darkness. At the end stood a single half-open door. Ethan pushed it carefully. Inside, moonlight filtered through broken curtains, revealing Lena crouched beside the wall, clutching a handgun with trembling hands. The moment she saw him, she grabbed his arm. You shouldn't have followed me. Who are those people? Ethan whispered. Lena looked terrified. People who make problems disappear. A loud bang shook the front door downstairs. Ethan flinched. They know I'm here, Lena continued quickly. If they catch you with me, you won't leave this forest alive. Another crash echoed below. The front door had broken open. Voices filled the cabin. Upstairs. Lena grabbed Ethan's wrist and pulled him toward the bedroom closet. Hidden behind hanging coats was a narrow door leading into darkness. A tunnel? Ethan whispered. My grandfather built it years ago. They crawled through the tight underground passage while footsteps thundered above them. Dirt fell from the ceiling each time doors slammed inside the cabin. Ethan's pulse hammered in his ears. Finally, the tunnel opened near the edge of the forest behind thick bushes. Rain still poured heavily as they stumbled outside, gasping for air. Far behind them, flashlight beams swept across the trees. Lena turned toward Ethan urgently. You need to stop looking for me. You knew my name before we met, Ethan said firmly. Why? For the first time, Lena hesitated. Then she reached into her coat and handed him a small silver flash drive. Before Ethan could ask what it contained, headlights suddenly appeared through the trees nearby. Another vehicle approaching. Lena stepped backward into the shadows. If anything happens to me, she whispered, don't trust the police. Then she disappeared into the forest. Ethan stood frozen in the rain until his phone suddenly vibrated in his pocket. Unknown number. Slowly, he answered. A calm male voice spoke only one sentence. Bring us the flash drive, Ethan, or your family dies next. Ethan's hands went cold. He ended the call instantly, but the words didn't leave his mind. Your family dies next. He looked down at the silver flash drive Lena had given him. Rainwater dripped from his hair as he stood alone in the forest, unsure whether he had just stepped into a rescue or a trap. By morning, he was back in the city. But nothing felt normal anymore. Every passing car felt suspicious. Every stranger's glance felt intentional. Even the familiar streets seemed like they were watching him. Ethan went to the only place he could think of. His late brother's old apartment storage unit. If anyone had taught him how to dig into hidden systems and encrypted files, it was him. Inside the dim storage room, Ethan plugged the flash drive into an old laptop. A single folder opened. Inside were hundreds of files, emails, bank transfers, and names, powerful names, linked to missing persons cases across the country. Then he found something worse. A video file labeled Lena Final Recording. He clicked it. Lena appeared on screen, bruised and exhausted, speaking directly into the camera. If you're watching this, then I didn't make it out. Ethan's breath tightened. I worked for a private intelligence group, she continued. We uncovered something bigger than corruption. People inside government, police, even emergency services are involved. The screen flickered. And your brother, he helped me expose it. Ethan froze. The video continued. They killed him because he refused to stop investigating. A loud bang suddenly echoed outside the storage room. Ethan spun around. Footsteps, slow, approaching. Then a voice from the darkness outside the door said calmly, "You shouldn't have opened that file." Ethan shut the laptop instantly, but it was already too late. The footsteps stopped right outside the storage room door. Silence pressed against him, heavy, suffocating, familiar in a way that made his stomach twist. The same kind of silence he felt on the highway the night he first saw Lena. A soft knock came. Not urgent, not aggressive, controlled. "You have something that doesn't belong to you," the voice outside said. Ethan backed away slowly, scanning the room for an exit. There was none. Just shelves, dust, and a single flickering bulb above him. Another knock. Then the door handle turned. Ethan grabbed a metal pipe from the floor just as the door opened. A man stepped inside. Well-dressed. Calm. Not like the men in the forest. This one looked like he belonged in a boardroom, not a chase through darkness. "You're making a mistake," the man said. Ethan tightened his grip. "You killed my brother." The man didn't deny it. Instead, he smiled slightly. "Your brother chose truth over survival. Lena did the same. You're standing at the same crossroads now." Ethan's voice shook. "Where is she?" The man tilted his head. "Safe, for now. But safety is negotiable." A folder slid across the floor, toward Ethan's feet. Inside were photos of his apartment, his parents' house, his office. Every detail of his life, mapped and monitored. "You've been watched longer than you think," the man continued. "The moment you met Lena, your life became part of something larger." Ethan's anger broke through the fear. "Why her? Why me?" The man stepped closer. "Because Lena wasn't the target." A pause. "You were." Sirens suddenly echoed faintly outside the building. The man glanced toward the sound, annoyed. "This isn't over," he said quietly. Then he left. Ethan stood frozen, as the laptop screen turned back on by itself. A new video file appeared. Lena again. But this time she wasn't speaking. She was holding a handwritten note. "If you're seeing this, trust no one. Not even me." And beneath it, an address he recognized.